Hello again team, it's Jess or JashiiCorrin and welcome back for another video. Today we are setting up my teaching related pages in my everyday bullet journal. These ones are just going to be for term 1 of next year, and I'm doing things a little bit differently to how I did them in 2021. As always, any of the equipment I use in setting up these pages is linked in the description box below, but without further ado, let's get into it. For the first page of this setup, I effectively wanted it to be a snapshot of what the term was going to look like. For this one, I've given myself a section to write down any important dates that are going to happen in the term, and then at the bottom of the page, I have a place for my topic timelines. So this will effectively tell me that for each of the courses that I'm teaching, how long do each of the topics last, or what weeks will they run from and to. For the topic timeline section, I just have 4 columns, one for each of the courses that I'm teaching, and I've got enough space to fill in what topics we're covering in the 11 weeks of the term, with each week being 1 centimetre tall. I don't fill in the timelines in this video, just because I want to wait until we're a little bit closer to the start of the term, just to make sure I am 100% on which courses I'll actually be taking. Although at this stage I do technically have my timetable for the year ahead, I know that some years that has been subject to changes just a couple of weeks outside of the term starting. So considering we have about a month until term 1 is due to start, I'm just holding off until I know for sure what my courses are going to be. As you can see here though, on the right hand side of the spread, I'm putting in a year at a glance. This is part of the reason why I didn't have a year at a glance in my start of journal setup for this journal. I didn't really feel the need to write out all of these mini calendars twice. For this one, I'm actually doing it on a separate piece of paper that I got from my Archer and Olive notepad, just so then I can transfer it into my next journal without having to rewrite all the calendars again. Typically what I like to use my year at a glance for is noting in any days that we have holidays or staff only days, and also any leave that I might take. I attached this one to the page just using some black washi tape to kind of make like a tip-in Dutch door. Behind the Dutch door, I'm leaving the page blank so that I can fill this space with any notes that I might have from my term 1 topics. In terms of timing, this part of the setup took 22 minutes from first touch of the pen to final erasings, but of course, as always, this doesn't include idea generation time or sketching in time. Flipping over though, and we are on to my term 1 overview page. On this spread I have 6 columns, so 1 for each weekday and 1 for the weekend. On this I again have 11 rows, 1 for each week of the term. This spread can essentially be used as a snapshot of everything that's happening in the term, and also when it's happening. So on here I'll record things like when we have certain holidays, any meetings, sports days, parent interviews, things like that. Once classes start, I'll also be able to record any assessment due dates as well, just so I have a good understanding of times when my workload is going to be a bit more intense. What I'll probably end up doing for this is color coding each of my classes, and then anything that I add to the overview that's for a particular class will be in that color. These will also probably be the same colors that I use on my timetable once I put my timetable into my journal, but typically rather than having that in the middle of the journal, like I have these pages, I'll usually stick that into the inside cover. Again, because our classes and our timetables aren't necessarily confirmed at this stage, I don't set that up in this video, but it is something I know that I'm going to be making. Typically what I'll do is just make one on Excel and then print it off and stick it into the inside cover. In terms of timing, this one took about 8.5 minutes to set up, and then I just spent another 4 minutes filling in some of the events that I know I have coming up. Flipping over, and we're on to a new setup for me, and one that's going to be replacing my lesson scheduler. If you've watched some of my previous videos about teacher setups in my bullet journal, you may remember my lesson scheduler setup, which per spread has the room to write in the lesson titles for 6 weeks worth of lessons. Rather than doing that in this one, I instead wanted to expand it a little bit, just so I had a bit more space to write down things that I might need to do for any given lesson. This one is a week per spread, so with 5 columns for Monday through to Friday, and each of those have 7 rows. 6 of them being for the 6 school periods that I have in a day, and 1 being for any other notes for that day. So for instance, if I have a meeting before or after school, if there's something going on at lunchtime, or anything else that I might need to remember. Once I have my timetable from school confirmed, I'm going to color code the boxes for each of the periods so that I know which class is happening when, and then inside those boxes I can write down any to-dos or list out what my lessons are going to be, really any information or reminders that I'll need for that period. While I only set up one of those spreads in this video, which took about 9.5 minutes, as you can see, I did set up one for each week of the term with cascading rainbow tabs. Flipping over though and onto the next spread, which was the simplest of the entire setup, this one came in at just over a minute because all it is at this stage is two titles, one that says before term 1 and the other that says before term 2. These are going to be used to house my before term checklists, which I like to write every holiday period. I find them really super helpful for making sure that I have everything I need to organised before the term starts. Question of the day for you guys, do you do any sectioning in your journal? Typically, I like to have a section at the back of my journal for all my teaching related spreads, but for this journal I've decided to try something a little different, and all of these teaching related pages are actually right after my start of journal setup. I'd be curious to know if there's any way in particular that you section up your journal. So having collections of related pages together, whether they be at the front or the back or anywhere else. For our final flip through though, we have the term outline page, including my topic timelines and my year at a glance. We have the term 1 overview, so I can see all of the events that are happening and when they happen. After this we have each of the weeklies for the weeks of term 1, with those rainbow cascading tabs. And after that we have the before term 1 and before term 2 checklist pages. A fairly simple setup, but I know that these pages are going to be really helpful when it comes to starting term 1. If you are also a teacher and needed more inspiration for other teaching related spreads, I do have a separate video on that, which is linked in the description box below. But otherwise team, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please do make sure to give it a big thumbs up. And if you hadn't already and felt so inclined, feel free to subscribe to my channel for more on planning, productivity, and personal development. Until next time, bye!